Hi there. Come on in. I'm Fred Trost, and I have a special guest with us this week, Bob Knopf. Bob is a biologist, a fisheries biologist. He works for Berkeley Line Company, and you've seen him on the show a number of times. But Bob has done research on fish, tying in the phase of the moon, the temperature, the weather, all sorts of factors, sunlight, overcast days, and I know you have your opinion of what the best time to fish is, but what does research show is the best time to fish? You can be surprised. But stay tuned, because it's Thursday night and time for Michigan Outdoors. Oh, look at this, Bob. Decisions, decisions. All the lures that anglers have in their tackle boxes. What lure are you going to use on a particular day? You think that's a big decision. What day should you go fishing? What time of day? How deep should you fish? What happens when the sun comes out? Bob Knopf is a fisheries biologist who did some work where? Lake Isabella?
Lake Isabella, right, just near Mount Pleasant.
Okay, and you spent how long?
About 2 years. I spent 1 year tracking fish around, and I did it again another year and tracked a couple more.
Tracking fish? I didn't know they left tracks.
Yeah, they don't, but what they do is we stick a little transmitter or a beeper in them, cut them open, put it right inside, and then we follow them, see where they went and what they did.
What kind of fish did you
use? Largemouth bass, and I use big ones, the kind most fishermen like to catch.
Like how big?
Anywhere from the smallest about 3 pounds, and they went up to about 7, so
wow.
3 to 7 pounders.
Wow, okay, we're talking about trophy bass. This man studied them, not just with the beepers, though. I happen to know that you're a scuba diver.
Right.
You snuck down in that water.
We went fishing and tried to catch them, and we went down and saw whether they were there or what was going on.
Okay, now let's get into it. Let's see. A lot of fishermen say the best time to fish, for bass especially, is on an overcast day.
Right. I kept track. I caught about 200 bass in this study, just fishing it. And I had more catches on clear, sunny days, which was completely against everything that I hear and you think. I had some good catches on cloudy, but caught almost twice as many on clear, sunny days. And almost always during midday, when the sun was straight overhead.
Huh? That is not according to
exactly the opposite of what you would hear.
What you hear is that you got to fish for bass early morning, late evening. Tell us, since you studied them for so long, what do these big lunker bass do in a 24-hour period? Did you ever study them?
Yeah, I went out and started tracking them sometime during the day and stayed with them for an entire 24-hour period, round the clock. And there was 2 types of bass we found. We found that some bass, usually the smaller ones, stayed in the weeds. And it's a weedy lake, and they stayed in the shallow weeds and just swam about at random throughout the day. Other bass stayed off over the edge of a drop-off at an underwater tree or rock or where the channel made a bend, and they stayed there during the daytime hours, and then when darkness came, they left the deep water and went up onto the shallow, weedy flats and joined the other bass, and they all swam around all night.
The bigger ones are in the deeper water?
They were in the deeper water during the day, and then at night they would move shallow, and I think this explains why a lot of people that go out fishing at night and wading along the shore can do really well, because that's when these big bass are coming in at night. Then again, right at the crack of dawn, they left these shallow water areas and went right back into the exact same tree that they were at before.
The same place?
The exact spot.
They stake it out?
They stake it out. Well, when I went diving down there wasn't just 1 or 2 bass that I was following around, but there was 50 to 100.
Wow. 50 to 100 bass in one spot. Hey, oh, that's great, Bob, because now you know where they are. You can just clean them out, pick them like grapes, right?
Sometimes. And then sometimes, even when you know they're there, you go up in your boat and you'd make 10 casts and you could catch 10 fish, just like that. No problem. You just pick them up and scoop them into the net. Great. And other times...
I'm glad you're here because you can tell us how to predict when to catch those 10.
No, I can't. I tried to find out why that happened, but I never did. There's other times when you can go out there and you can throw out there and you won't catch any fish. There's something out there that's causing these fish to either turn on, become more active, to start to feed, and then there's other times when they're just sitting out there and they won't take anything.
And you're telling me after 2 years of intensive research, you can't tell us why? You can't?
No. It's not light. I measured light intensity, for example, and it's not that. I lowered a meter down and checked the amount of light that was down there, and it isn't that.
Well, it's probably the Solunar tables.
Well, possibly could be. I checked the times that I caught my fish, and although I caught fish when it wasn't a Solunar period, I caught all my best catches were during a Solunar period of one type or another, either a major period or a minor period.
So there might be something to Solunar tables.
There might be something to that. I would tend to look at them a little more carefully if I was maybe an average, just a guy going out fishing. If you had a couple hours to go out, I tend to go out during a Solunar period.
What about temperature?
I measured temperature, and what happened was as the water temperature got warmer, the fish became more active, and when they still stayed in their area during the day, the big fish stayed in the deep water, but at night they would roam as far as a mile or even 2 miles at night, which is pretty far for a fish.
How fast do those bass move when they're
And they're just
roaming like
casually swimming around feeding. They just kind of move at a slow pace, but when in the mornings when they come back to their daytime spot, they swim awful fast. You can go almost half out with say a 10 horsepower motor and just keep them right ahead of you.
So they're scooting back?
Unbelievable fast.
They're scooting back to that same tree to take the same post
That's right.
day after day.
With all the, and I assume, I had 2 bass that did that were at the exact same tree, and there was, when I would dive and see, there would be maybe 30 or 40, and I assume that a lot of these bass were doing the same exact thing.
Wow, that is interesting. Do you think that this just applies to bass, or do other species have maybe similar patterns?
Where they stay and what depth they're found at would vary, and that would vary even among bass if you went from one water to another, because the Lake Isabel is a rather turbid lake. But I think these activity periods are when these fish are actually biting. You can go out and catch bass, walleye, and muskie at the exact same time. I think all the fish are somewhat turning on under the same, whatever it is that's turning them on, the same
Whatever it is.
condition.
pH is something you hear about a lot. Test the pH.
pH is
Croc?
yeah, it's pretty, it's really overrated. I've taken a lot of pH readings, and it's not something like temperature that's one thing. It can be, you can have pH 5 that's one chemical, and you can have go to another water and have the exact same pH, and it can be altogether different.
But every angler has an opinion as to what it was, the best time of day, the best time to go. Bob, just sum it up in a simple statement after 2 years of research.
The best time to go fishing is when you can get out there, of course. Daytime fishermen should, if they want big fish and they want to get a bunch of them, should probably fish the drop-offs. They can go at nighttime. If they go out at night, they can go fish the shallow, weedy areas with a surface lure or something that's weed-free and just cover a lot of water. And they should be in about the best shape they can be.
But go fishing whenever you can. Great
right.
advice, Bob. That didn't take 2 years of research to come up with that, but this information this man has is really handy. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We'll send you a copy of some of the information that Bob has learned in his research. If you write to us here at Michigan Outdoors, the address will be coming up a little later. And also, your company has provided anglers, if you don't have one on your boat, you could put a sticker down on a seat with a ruler that you can use to measure those lunkers that you catch. It only goes up to 18 inches, but
Good for tackle boxes, too.
sure, put it right in your tackle box. Well, very good. Thank you, Bob. Now I want to get over here, talk to our trophy angler of the week, and find out what his secret to success is. Secret to success, well, with these fellas, is fish with a buddy and buy the best equipment you can. Right, John?
Right.
Okay, this is John Skura from Cleveland, Ohio. His buddy Mike Fitzgerald from Parma Heights. And let's talk about the equipment, because good equipment is important. We're talking hooks, line, and a fishing pole. Now, come on, you guys used this to catch this fish?
Yes, we did.
This fish in itself is a real trip. What kind is it?
It's a dogfish or bowfin.
Bowfin. Well, Ned Fogel, you're from the DNR Fish Division, in charge of the Master Angler program. We don't get too many Master Angler dogfish in. People don't seem to like them.
No, I don't know where the dogfish has gotten the nasty stigma that it has, because it's a very excellent predator. It's important to our lakes and help maintaining our panfish balance. It's a type of individual animal that can live in very poor conditions. It has a air bladder that fastens right onto its esophagus so it can gulp air. So if the oxygen goes low, it can live way back in the weeds and pads.
Well, this fits with what you guys did that night when you caught it. This lake, No Name Lake in southern Michigan.
Right.
One of your favorite fishing lakes you come up to from Cleveland. What was this fish doing when you saw it?
Well, when we came first down on the pier, he was in about 3 inches of water eating minnows.
Probably gulping air at the same time, maybe.
I suppose he was gulping minnows if he was in there, because if they could be in there, but he was the only, that's his natural food, and they're very active at night, and they'll come right into these shallow waters, and they'll get a lot of small panfish that other predators can't get, and so they are important to maintaining balances in the.
So he was thrashing around, and you saw him in what, lantern light or something?
With a flashlight, we take one down there just to see what's down in the water first off.
And you saw this, and did you know it was a dogfish?
Oh, yes, right away.
Okay, then your trusty poles. And this, I mean, is a pole. the true fishing pole, a broom handle or something like that.
Exactly what it is.
Would you explain to these folks out here why you use such delicate equipment?
Well, we had to do it this way because the first time we went out, we used our regular fishing rods, which is, I have on mine, a 6-pound test line. I had one, he just ripped the line right out about 3 times. So the next day, we decided to do something a little bit better.
The old broom handle, double monofilament line. You don't take any chances, wire leader, and a nice big hook. What do you guys usually fish for, Mike?
Well, usually at night we go out for the catfish, and then the dogfish started coming in, so now we're going for the dogfish now. That's
What's fun about catching dogfish? Probably the battle.
yeah, that's about it.
Really put up a
This
fight.
is interesting, I think, Fred, because people, the stigma, the dogfish is not that good of eating fish. The meat is of coarser quality, but a dogfish really is everything people would want as a fighting fish. It will take artificial lures. It'll take a live bait. As the boys found out, it takes pretty good tackle to hold it, and if you want a real battle, why, get a fish. They have excellent stamina, and a lot of people have maybe found out you can almost leave them out of water overnight, and they would be alive the next morning.
So why are they regarded as trash fish? And they are. They're put in a category with drum, sheep's head, carp, suckers, and called trash fish.
I think it's because of eating quality mainly, although I don't, largemouth bass, I love to fish them, but I've never cared for eating them much, except the very small ones. But
Well, let's talk, maybe it's the looks. Let's look at the mouth on this. Dogfish have pretty fair set of teeth.
well, it really doesn't, though. Now, a gar, I could see what gar's looks, but the head on the bowfin is sort of like a largemouth bass in shape. It's not really that, but it does, of course, the tail is a little bit funny looking, and with a large dorsal
What is it
fin.
related to?
Well, it belongs to its own family. It's a very primitive family. It's come down through history. There's many hundreds of thousands of years it's been around.
The dogfish, or bowfin. Well, Mike and John, best of luck to you. This is a master angler bowfin.
Yes, it is.
Right, how much did it weigh?
Exactly, I think 9 pounds or 10 pounds.
That's a dandy. What kind of fight did it put up with, give you on this equipment?
Well, so much that we had to drag it into shore. We could not bring it up and over the pier.
I bet it really flopped around.
Yes.
What a story. What a fish story, you guys. Well, Mike Fitzgerald and John Skura, glad to have you on the show. I'm glad you entered this master angler bowfin, the dogfish, to give us a chance to see what it looks like. Right now, I want to show you some other trophy fish that are caught in Michigan in our trophy report. Here's a fish that's often caught at night, like bowfin, but it prefers the deep water. This is a walleye. At 8.5 pounds, it qualifies Chris Mills from Bel Air to wear a master angler patch. He caught it at 8:30 in the morning, trolling in Erie Deary in Lake Bel Air. A few weeks ago, Ron Griffith from Holland was trolling off his hometown right after lunch, midday, when this 14.5-pound steelhead went for a Northport nailer. A few miles to the south, Walter Wilt of South Haven was trolling off his hometown right after dinner, 6 p.m., when a steelhead trout of about the same size went for a maverick. Lake Michigan has produced some nice steelhead this year. You can tell by the belly on this fish and the square tail that it's one of those fat Great Lakes brown trout. Tony Thompson from Grand Haven is another local boy who fishes near home. Trolling a Thunder Bay spoon at noontime worked for him. That brown weighs 16 pounds even, 2 pounds above the master angler minimum. And rounding out our trophy report of fish all caught by locals off their hometowns in Lake Michigan is Gene Whiting of Manistee. The big fish on the left is a steelhead, almost 20 pounds. The magic lure was a zipper. These fish were taken off Manistee. At the end of the show, we'll show you some hot action farther north on Lake Michigan at Ludington that represents the fishing action in the Great Lakes right now, but we'll close this trophy report, making Gene Whiting of Manistee our Michigan Outdoors Master Angler of the Week. We're being looked at by a green frog. But this is not a run-of-the-mill green frog. This is Eric Miller's green frog. Eric, you're from DeWitt. You have a big ox roast coming up this weekend. And also, what else? Frog jumping contest. And you are who? You the champ? Okay, you bet you're the champ. Look at this picture here we have of Eric. This is when you were young, though. You were only 6 years old. That was last year. How much did you win?
$20.
$20 for having a frog that won the frog leaping contest. Did you ever consider entering a toad? You didn't? Why not?
They
don't jump very well, do they? No, I have a fella here. This is Bruce Jane. He's a herpetologist from Michigan State University. He's going to explain to us some of the differences between frogs and toads. Which do you like to pick up better?
Frogs.
Why? Toads are kind of bumpy and strange. Okay, why don't you pick up your frog there, Eric? Bruce, you want to grab the toad?
I'll go ahead and get the toad, sure.
And you're not going to get warts from that, of course.
Certainly not, although their skin is very warty in appearance. You needn't worry about that at all.
Okay.
Now, Eric's certainly showing good judgment by avoiding picking a toad for his jumper, because you notice that the toads really have quite short legs compared to his frog. If we can
Okay, we'll turn
get
the
a
frog
look
around
at
here.
how long the legs are on that frog, and really that
you
that
go, Eric.
frog is comparable size to this particular toad. Also, these frogs
There you
have much larger thigh muscles. In addition, there's quite a noticeable movement that occurs in this kind of frog, which is a green frog, between
Oh,
the
look at
pelvis, which is this bone back here, and then the rest of the backbone, which is up here.
So they're
In
structurally...
contrast to that, you simply don't see that movement in the toad, so that also gives them an advantage in
So
jumping.
if a toad had the muscle development, it still doesn't have the skeleton to jump like a
Right,
frog
simply
does.
the mechanics of the skeleton would prohibit it from jumping well. One thing that toads are very good at, in contrast to frogs such as this, is burrowing. That's one reason why they have quite short legs. And besides the short legs, we see a very large bump,
Oh, that bump
on
right
the
there?
foot here. That's correct. And that's used when the toads burrow, feet first, into fairly sandy or loose soils.
Huh. So they burrow and frog will tend to jump in the water.
That's correct.
Well, I hope you have a winner there, Eric. Looks like a real lively one, doesn't he? What's his name?
Hopper.
Hopper? Heck of a name for a frog. Well, best of luck to you in the frog jumping contest. We're going to run another contest this weekend up in Leadington. If you could get up there real quick after your frog jumping contest, you'd see some people fillet some fish faster than you can imagine. Let's go up there now and get a preview. Well, Ed, this is the man who says he's top dog on salmon.
He's getting ready, isn't he? Sharpening that knife up.
Okay, Pete Rubianis, who, well, Ray Nichols, you challenged to a fish filleting contest. You say he might be better than you on walleye, but nobody can beat you on salmon?
Oh, that's what I think. Ray needs a little practice. I seen him the other day.
Okay, there's also some other fellows. Well, let's come on over here and you show us, in slow motion here, your technique for filleting a salmon. What's the first thing you do when you tackle a big 20-pound Chinook like this?
Come down along the belly and take the belly fat out right here, all the way to the hind end.
And why do you do that?
Well, I don't know. They say the belly has a lot of the chemicals and stuff out of the lake, plus it's all fat.
So it's not really good eating anyway.
No, I don't think it is.
Okay,
So
so
we
you make
always
that
cut it
cut.
away.
And cut right down?
No, you don't have to do that. I just did
Okay.
it.
Okay, now where do you go?
And the next cut, you come right behind the gill cover all the way until you feel the backbone. Then you turn the knife, and you just come right along the edge of that backbone.
Seems like you got most of the meat there.
And then you peel it over.
Look at that. Look at that. By the way, what kind of knife is that you're using before we go any farther? That's a heck of a knife.
We started these about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, and it's actually a meat cutter's knife, and it's called a Forester, and the number is 80210.
A special knife that you use for filleting exclusively.
Right, it's basically designed for a meat cutter's knife, but there's not a knife on the market that can hold an edge like this one.
So it holds a good edge, it's a good thin blade, and works for filleting. Okay. I just wanted to find out about that, because a knife is mighty important, isn't it? Also
Yes.
sharpening it with a steel.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, now what do you do once you have the salmon this far?
Then you take and you just turn it over. It actually takes longer to turn the fish and stuff than it does do the cutting and cleaning of the fish. And then you turn it over and you go through the same process. You come down along the belly, and you come back in behind the gill cover until you find that backbone. Then you turn your knife and you just come down the edge of it, see?
Okay, well you cut right through the rib bones. Now you got to get rid of the carcass
Okay.
and the eggs, and then we're left with the...
I'll just put it over there for now.
Okay, now we're left with the... These aren't really boneless fillets yet,
No,
because they still have the rib bones in them.
So then you turn it around. I gotta come your way a little bit.
Okay.
You turn around and you take the rib bones out of it.
Slicing like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so that's going to be, in just a matter of a few seconds, a boneless fillet. Now what about skinning it?
And I usually see the fish this big on the table, and usually there's other people helping you. I usually take the side off, lay it over, and then come down with the skin. But it's a lot harder to do on a big fish, especially with people around. But I just take it halfway and then I come down the skin. Then I cut a hole in the skin so I can get a hold of it, and I turn it around the other way.
That's a handy idea.
Then you actually pull on the skin as you cut with a knife.
And
See?
that's it.
That's it.
There they are, our fillets or salmon fillets. I'll tell you what, don't take the time to do this one here. We want to see how you do for speed. Okay?
All right,
We'll
give
get
it
it.
a whirl.
We'll give a Chinook here. There's been various estimates of who can do it the fastest. Pete Rubianis has said you can do it in how long?
We worked on it the other day, and it's hard just to time one fish, but we had it all the way down from 19 seconds on up to 41 seconds.
Okay, well, here's a moderate-sized Chinook. Ed, are you ready with the stopwatch?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What you guys got to do is once you get going, stand back because the blood and guts fly.
Oh, a heck of a
Yes,
deal.
sir.
Okay, this man is getting ready. Now, hold it. Don't go yet. This is in preparation for our Michigan Outdoors Fish Filleting Contest, which we'll be coming up here very soon here in Ludington
Right.
for you hot dog fish filleters. Ed, you ready on the watch?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Go.
You say go.
Okay, ready, set, go.
I better stand back here. Well, there's one side up. Look at
And
that.
that's 5 seconds,
Look at
Brad.
that. He's got that skinned. There's one
10
fillet.
seconds. Oh man, he's going fast.
And look, he's doing a good job on the
15
fillets.
seconds.
Skinned.
20 seconds.
Look at that!
21 seconds.
Hey, I think you should have a little round of applause, guys, eh?
That one worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, Pete says this worked out pretty good. And you have a couple fillets here that have just about all of the meat on them. Well, congratulations, Pete. You're going to challenge anybody who takes Sean at our competition, right?
Definitely, I'll challenge him, but I think we ought to do like 2 or 3 fish or something like that.
Okay, we're going to work out the details on this. You're going to hear all about it in Michigan Outdoors, so stay tuned.
Is that fast enough for you?
Hey, was that fast enough for me? Hey. You want to get your money in right away so you don't miss it. Listen up, and I'll tell you what this workshop is all about. Experts will cover all the basics you need to know about pheasants, ducks, geese, squirrels, rabbits, raccoons, grouse, and woodcock. Everything from the field to the table. Glenn Dutterer and DNR wildlife biologists will explain the life histories, biology, and behavior of all the small game species. Experts will give you rundowns on the best hunting techniques, equipment, clothing, guns and ammunition, how to pattern your shotgun, dog care and handling, hazards and preventing the most common hunting accidents, and conservation officers will be there to answer your questions about game laws. All types of specialists representing hunting organizations will be there. A bow hunter who will demonstrate wing shooting with a bow. Handgunners, muzzleloaders, slingshots, and representatives of all the small game hunting organizations. Eric Olson from the DNR teaches firemen how to swim in full gear, so duck hunters, bring your bathing suits and he'll teach you how you can survive wearing a snowmobile suit and waders if you fall in accidentally. One of the most important parts of every hunt is the field dressing and cooking of the game. Kay Ritchie is our expert who will demonstrate how to field dress, prepare, and cook all types of small game. That is worth the price of the workshop right there. Registration fee for the entire day, including lunch, is only $12.50. You'll learn more than you can imagine about Michigan's small game in this workshop. Send your registration fee to Michigan Outdoors, Box 1, East Lansing, 48823. Make your check out to the Michigan Outdoors TV Fund. All the proceeds go towards keeping Michigan Outdoors on the air on Thursday nights. This is the most comprehensive educational experience for small game hunters ever held in Michigan, put on in cooperation with the Cooperative Extension Service at Michigan State University, the DNR, and sportsmen's clubs around the state. Now that's September 11th at Okemos High School, just east of East Lansing. Sign up now and don't miss out. The action is fast and furious. Remember, like it was last week when we reported from Ludington with the Richies off Pete Rubianis' boat. I tell you, right here, I'm going to rerun a little of this tape. We had multiple hookups. I'm talking about 2, 3, 4 fish on at a time. Right now, this is Ed's fish coming in. He had a salmon on that's coming right up to the boat, but that wasn't the only one that was on.
Drop down. Drop it down. Drop it down.
You got to drop and pull.
All right. Steering over here.
Boy, that's exciting to get that one in the net.
Okay, just dump them on the floor.
Beautiful fish, Ed.
Work.
Nice.
Yeah, nice
Okay, back
fish, but
out
you
of
know,
the way,
there are
you
2
guys.
more that are hooked up right now. You'll see Guy Ritchie, 12-year-old guy who really knows how to battle the fish. He's got one on. And Bill Swegler from the Travel Bureau. He's right off to the right there. He's battling one too, getting it right up to the boat. That's excitement. fish crossing each other, battling.
Oh my God!
Most of the
look
fish
at another one.
along the western side of the state are kings around Pentwater. They just got a new school of coho in at Pentwater. Not too many kings or trout, but that was just reported today.
Get that net out of there, Dave, and I'll back
There's
up.
another one in the cooler.
Fish on.
Fish on,
And
tuna.
we still have Guy Ritchie's fish out there that we're going to net, and just about the time we get that in the net, and we're 2 more hooked up. So Kay and Dave Ritchie both had fish on. That's the way the action was. If you want to fish on the east side of the state, Lake Huron around the Thumb, they have been getting salmon, if you know where they are, but they're out in deeper water. That fishery is a little later, but they are catching lake trout out in about 100 feet of water from Harrisville on around the Thumb. So whatever you do this weekend, it's a great weekend to get out fishing. Look at that fishing action. We're going to be out there this weekend, too. Hope to see you. Have a good weekend in Michigan Outdoors. See you next week.
You got that camera in fast action? Yeah. Okay, let's get these rods set. Let them keep doing this.
Somebody.
Here, give me this. Set this one 46 down with a grizzly on the bottom. You got a grizzly rod somewhere?